How do the 97% of men end up in relationships, married, and with kids? By the way, I'm the 3%.
He thinks
Winky.
he's 3%.
I feel like if you're
So
3%,
the reality is, what is the divorce rate? Tends to hover between 55. I've seen estimates as high as 65%. So you already know that 56% of the relationships are not going to work out. And the average guy is kind of clueless. Divorce and breakups are initiated by women at least 75% of the time. And just like some of the examples from the book, if he's a 3% man, then he knows the examples. I had one in there of a very successful doctor. Is very wealthy in the Orlando area. And I was talking to his wife. We were on this cruise in Europe. This is going back over 20 years ago. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I was with my husband for 7 years before I finally fell in love with him." And most guys think just because the woman marries them or is with them that they love them. And sometimes women want kids. Sometimes they settle. Men and women both settle. If they don't think they can get what they want, they're like, "Well, this is as good as it's going to get. The clock is ticking." But do you really want to be somebody that's in a relationship with a woman who doesn't love you? Wouldn't you much rather be able to tell that she loves you and is in love with you? Because again, when you look at the stats, it's most of them are not going to work out. So just because a guy is able to get married and have some kids doesn't mean it's a happy relationship.
I feel like a lot of women nowadays too. Well, it's probably been happening for a long time. They get married for security purposes, like
That too.
they trying to get away from their family, or they're trying to get on their feet, or what have you, or maybe they're just.
Well, you get the passport bros that think, "Oh, I went to Thailand, or I went to Eastern Europe and I got myself a very feminine bride." And if they can't tell if the woman's really truly in love with them, they go and they get married and live in the States 3 or 4 years. And once she gets her green card and her citizenship, then they find out that she's fucking somebody from work or the next door neighbor. And the chick ups and leaves them because now she's got her citizenship or her green card, and you can't. And on top of that, you get to pay her alimony, and if you got kids, you get to pay child support. So just because you married a feminine woman from another country, who, quite frankly, if she lived here in this country, she wouldn't have dated you. The only reason she dated you is because she wanted a green card. She wanted to get out of where she was at. I've done countless videos and newsletters and phone sessions over the years with guys that got into those situations. They saw some red pill retard on the internet. It said, all modern women in the West sucks. So they go and they get some girl from like a Thailand or somewhere else.
We reacted to a video.
Yeah, and then they bring her over, and then they didn't bother vetting for character because the red pill retards are usually some young guy that has no life experience. It's saying, "Oh, you need to go overseas and get yourself a woman." And so the guy goes over there and finds a girl that'll date him because he's American and he's got some money, and then she moves with him. And then after a period of time, she starts bringing her family over. And then once she is firmly a citizen or has her permanent green card, then she leaves him. And then the guy is shocked and heartbroken because he can't tell. He can't tell if the girl's really into him or really not. And that's a dangerous place to be as a man, because you could be on the hook for the alimony, you could be on the hook for child support, and just because you thought she came from a certain country, you just automatically assume she's a good person. And then you might find out that half the kids aren't even yours, but since you were married and you've been supporting them already, even though they're not biologically your kids, you still got to pay for them. There's lots of guys, lots of stories of dudes, horror stories that guys have done that. They find out that the kids aren't theirs, and the judge is like, legally, you have to pay for them. Too bad. So if you don't vet the people in your life, if you don't vet who you date and marry, man, that's a lot of downside risk for somebody, and it's a rude awakening. And some guys, they just can't deal with it, and they don't survive it. They can't handle it, and then they off themselves, or they do a Hialeah divorce.
Well, just like how 90 Day Fiance, one of our
prime example.
favorite shows.
One of your favorite shows that you subject us all to.
Yeah. I mean, TLC's
torture us.
Popular channel here in the pod house. But yeah, there's many examples of that on 90 Day Fiance, where a lot of Americans will go overseas and find,
Women that will date them that if they were American, they would have never given those dudes a time of day.
it's not just
That man with
women,
the big neck. What's
The short guy.
Big Ed, but he's with an American girl, Liz, now. But that's not even the case. I was thinking there's a new season that's coming up, and they're having a previous couple that they've already aired. And the woman, she's American. She went on I think it was a cruise, and she met this foreigner on the cruise, and she got knocked up by him, like, not on the cruise. I think that they've met back and forth. She got married to him, whatever. She already has like 2 kids from a previous relationship. But the commercials have been showing that like he's been sleeping around while he,
what? And she's trying to help him?
Yeah, to come to America. So, she's having his baby. She already has 2 babies from somebody else. Uh-oh. And this is like something that Americans are dealing with. And I personally know a couple people who have married from people from out of the country.
Yeah.
Brought their entire families over. And we make jokes about it, but just loving jokes. And there's situations that it's okay, and that like it's no harm, no foul. They've done this like in a loving manner. It wasn't for like papers or anything like that. They did it to help. But then there's other families and relationships that are for the sole purpose of green cards. I mean, when my parents met, my mom, because she's Israeli, back then they gave out these, what were they, like citizenship cards or green cards, but they were like they never expired. I think some of my family members, I think 2 of my
you have
family,
a green card, you can stay here, but you're not a citizen.
Right.
That's a big difference.
But they gave them back then. They gave out these green cards that never expired. Like today, green cards expire.
You
right?
have to renew them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So back then they gave them with like no expiration. They were like valid forever. And I think like 1 or 2 of my family members, like my Israeli ones, still have it. Mm-hmm. And a couple of my Israeli friends, their parents still kind of have that one. But when my dad and my mom like knew they were getting married, my dad was like, all right, let me get you papers. My mom's like, go fuck yourself. Like, if I want the papers, I'm going to get them myself. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was in like I think it was like after my brother was born. I was like 3rd grade. My mom and my mom's parents were all studying for their citizenship. Mm. And they were asking me all the questions and like asking me to answer it with them. And I was like, wow, this is kind of hard. But like as a kid, like these are the things that you're studying in school. But at the same time, I'm like,
used to be.
Well, yeah, today, I don't even think the kids would know the answers. But it's an interesting thing to think about, that the people who are actually studying for these exams, if you were to put them in a classroom with kids today,
Americans,
or I would just say any average American in general,
that baffles me, because if you were to ask American kids any history questions,
what kind of American kids are we talking about?
I think that it's important to have these kinds of conversations, because I know that like for my Cuban friends, it was different for them, because I think when you're from Cuba, when you come here, like once you're here, you like seek asylum or something like that.
Well, that's what a lot of people were doing, saying I'm a persecuted minority back home, or I'll be killed if I go back home. Yeah. So they're just scamming the system. I mean, there was an app that they had where people could apply for asylum and then just basically get picked up by the Border Patrol, and they're like, "Hey, where you want to go?" And they'll just fly you wherever you want in the country at the taxpayers' expense, which is just absolutely absurd. No vetting, just come on in. We'll send you wherever you want to go.
I don't know if it's like that. I mean,
It is exactly like that.
I
Erica.
remember like Lorena told me when she was a kid. She came here when she was 6.
I'm not talking about when she was 6. I'm talking about right now.
No.
That's been in the news and the media. That's very well known. That's what has been going on. And as soon as Trump got sworn in, all those apps, because the people were showing it, they went offline because he turned all that shit off. Because it was basically like a VIP pass to have the government just bring you in and send you wherever you wanted to go at
Fast
the taxpayer's
pass.
expense.
I think
Fast
that's
pass to get to.
It's ridiculous.
no more
You gotta if you go
Disneyland.
travel and then you come back to the country, you go through bulletproof glass and customs, and you get interrogated. But if you show up at the border and go, "Oh yeah, I'm a refugee," and like, "Oh, come on in. Where you want to go? Oh, here's a plane flight. We'll send you wherever," at the taxpayer's expense, which is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that any American is getting enough benefits themselves.
Well, all the people that were working for U.S. Aid, they shut the whole thing down. Pretty much everybody's getting fired.
Well, I don't think that America as a whole was getting enough benefits to be giving out those benefits themselves.
Well, those people get benefits. They just keep having babies and.
No, I mean us.
Oh,
Like the
Yeah, they have
work.
the anchor baby. They're
people
not
who
even American
work-
citizens, and they have a kid here. Then the kid's an American citizen, and then they can bring all the rest of their family members over, which we end up having to pay for as well.